buckle up, everyone, because today we are taking a deep dive into some pretty out there stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely a unique one.
We got this audio file called La Segunda Venida, and, not like anything I've ever come across.
It's not your typical like self-help thing or,
Not at all.
like a motivational speaker or anything.
It's more like a personal message almost
Yeah.
from some very mysterious source.
Right off the bat, what really gripped my attention was just how intensely personal it felt. It's
Yeah.
like the speaker is speaking directly to you, like having this one-on-one,
Yeah.
like revealing these really unusual ideas about like the soul and what reality even is. And then there's this whole second coming thing, which is definitely not what you expect.
Not your typical Sunday school lesson, no.
No, not at all.
And probably one of the most like mind-bending ideas is this whole "you are me, I am you" thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the speaker is really emphasizing this deep connection between you, the listener, and your soul, almost suggesting that they aren't two separate things.
Like two sides of the same coin, kind
Yeah,
of.
yeah, exactly.
It's fascinating because in a way it's like it echoes this idea of like universal consciousness that you find in a lot of different mystical traditions.
Yeah.
This idea that we're all connected through this like unified energy field.
Right.
But the speaker presents it as like this lived reality,
Yeah.
not just some abstract philosophy.
And they go even further and say that this connection with your soul is going to like become much more real. Like soon they talk about this integration
Uh-huh.
of your soul into like your everyday life,
Yeah.
your experience.
Yeah.
And they even say that you'll never feel alone again.
That's a pretty bold statement,
Which is-
given how universal that feeling of loneliness is. It's
Yeah.
like the speaker is suggesting that loneliness isn't just like a normal part of being human,
Right.
but more like a symptom of us being separate from our true nature.
Yeah, from our soul.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is where things get really wild. The speaker starts talking about this cleansing process
Okay.
where these negative energies like guilt and shame and fear,
Which they call
they call them the 3 poisons of humanity,
Yeah.
get like purged as your soul integrates more fully.
Wow.
And they even link these negative energies to like physical illness and even death.
Wow. If you really think about that, it suggests a completely different way of thinking about like health and well-being. It's fascinating how the speaker connects our emotional and spiritual state to our physical health,
Yeah.
even going as far as to say that these negative energies are actually attracting pain and sickness and potentially even death.
Yeah. It's pretty different from how we normally think about these things.
Yeah, it's a pretty radical departure from like conventional medical wisdom, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And then, of course, we get to the whole second coming thing.
Oh, yeah.
And it is not what you'd expect at all.
Totally flips the script on the traditional idea of like some divine figure returning to Earth. Instead, the second coming is all about the integration of your soul, like your divine essence,
Right.
into your human form, which they call like the temple.
Yeah, they even say that the first coming was when we like entered into this whole cycle of life and death in human form. I thought that was a really powerful way to look at it.
Yeah, it really shifts the focus from some external savior to this internal process of like awakening and unification.
Yeah.
It's more in line with like Eastern spiritual traditions, where the emphasis is on self-realization and enlightenment.
And then there's this whole death and resurrection thing.
Ooh, yeah.
It's a little intense, but
Yeah.
they're not talking about like actual physical death.
Right. The second death is more about letting go of old patterns,
Yeah.
limiting beliefs and those really deep fears.
Hmm.
Basically making space for your soul's energy to emerge.
And they use these terms like divine and crystalline energy to describe what the soul brings,
Right.
which is a little out there, I gotta admit.
It is, but I think it speaks to like the massive transformation they're describing. It's
Yeah.
like we're shedding our old selves to make way for this new, more radiant version of ourselves.
Okay, so I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on all this.
Yeah.
What stands out to you as the most interesting idea?
Honestly, it's just the boldness of it all that I find so fascinating.
Uh-huh.
It's not just offering some vague spiritual platitudes.
Yeah.
It's proposing this like radical change in human consciousness and even hints at a totally different future for our planet.
Yeah.
It's not something you can just ignore, even if you don't agree with every little detail.
It definitely gives you a lot to think about.
It does.
Like, what would it really mean to embrace this message? to
Yeah.
really allow this soul integration to happen,
Right.
would it change how you live your life?
I mean,
Your relationships, your
yeah.
work, your purpose?
Absolutely. And that's exactly what we're going to dig into in part 2 of this deep dive. We'll explore the specific changes the speaker talks about and see how this message aligns or maybe clashes with other spiritual and philosophical frameworks.
Okay.
So stay tuned because we're just getting started.
Welcome back. So we're digging into this whole soul integration thing.
Yeah.
And I keep thinking about the language the speaker uses,
Yeah.
It's like the soul is entering you or
Yeah.
cleaning you out and even like taking over.
Uh-huh.
It's pretty intense imagery.
It is, and it kind of makes you wonder about how this integration actually plays out,
Right.
The speaker seems to be saying the soul's like a separate being almost.
Yeah.
That comes in and guides the human.
Yeah, and it's not just sitting there quietly either.
Right, it's active.
Yeah.
Powerful, almost like I don't know, a little bossy even.
Yeah, they do say your mind can finally relax and take a back seat while the soul takes the wheel.
Yeah, talk about a management shakeup.
But it does make you think about free will.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
If the soul's calling the shots, what happens to our own choices and our desires,
Yeah, what about that individual sense of self?
Right. But the speaker does address that a little bit.
Okay.
Remember they mentioned how some people delay the integration because they're enjoying the games of power or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're like, it's okay, no judgment, just compassion for those who choose to stay in that state for a bit longer.
So maybe it's not about losing free will entirely,
Right.
but more like a shift in what we focus on, like
Yeah.
a new understanding of what really matters.
Okay, so let's get into some of the actual changes the speaker talks about.
All right.
They mention your energy changing,
Yeah.
becoming more like crystalline, and how things will start to feel clearer and easier.
Yeah, that reminds me of the idea like raising your vibration,
Uh-huh.
which is pretty common in a lot of New Age and esoteric teachings.
Okay.
The idea is that as we get rid of those negative patterns and align more with our soul's energy, we actually vibrate at a higher frequency. And that supposedly attracts more positive experiences.
So it's not just a metaphor, it's an actual energy shift.
Yeah, that's the idea, though. Admittedly, the scientific evidence for this is pretty shaky.
Okay.
But even if we just think of it metaphorically, it still points to this idea of transformation and positive change.
And remember those 120,000 senses we were talking about?
Oh, yeah. What about those?
What does that even mean?
Right.
The speaker says we'll start to perceive the world through the soul's expanded senses, like experiencing a whole new level of reality.
I can't even imagine what that would be like.
Me neither.
Makes you wonder if our 5 senses are just like the tip of the iceberg,
Right.
Like what's actually out there, what we could actually perceive.
What if it's heightened intuition or something?
Yeah.
Or even psychic abilities?
Ooh. Now that's getting interesting.
Maybe we'll have to do another deep dive on that sometime.
That'd be fun.
But going back to the audio, the speaker also talks about accessing the soul's wisdom, like this huge library of knowledge collected over lifetimes. It's like you'll have all this information on tap whenever you need it.
It's like having a cosmic Google search in your head. Yeah, exactly. I mean, think of what we could do with that kind of knowledge at our fingertips.
Right.
The inventions, the breakthroughs, the creative solutions, if we could tap into all that wisdom.
And then there's this idea that your soul will guide you to the most appropriate place at the most appropriate time with the most appropriate experience.
Yeah.
Like a cosmic GPS or something.
Guiding you toward your highest potential.
Yeah. Which is interesting because it suggests that this whole journey isn't just random chance or fate. Like there's a purpose, a plan unfolding.
With your soul as your personal guide.
Kind of takes the pressure off.
Right.
Like you don't have to figure it all out yourself.
Right.
That is a comforting thought, but there's a catch, right?
Yeah, what's that?
The speaker makes it clear that there's no point in trying to predict or control how this all goes down.
Oh, right. They keep saying, stay present. Don't worry about the future. It's like a reminder that this is a journey, not a destination.
Right.
The real transformation is happening right now.
Yeah, not in some far-off future.
Right here in this moment.
It's like they're saying, enjoy the ride, even if you don't know where you're going.
Yeah. Easier said than done, though, right?
Yeah, for sure.
We humans love to plan and analyze and be in control. Letting go and surrendering to the unknown, that's a whole other way of being.
But it also sounds kind of liberating,
Yeah, I can see that.
And if we remember that vision of Earth populated only by divinities,
Right.
maybe that kind of surrender is what it takes to create that world.
It's a bold vision, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And while it might seem a little far-fetched, it's
Yeah.
also incredibly hopeful, you know? Like, it suggests that a world beyond suffering and separation, beyond all the limitations we think are just part of life,
Yeah.
that kind of world might actually be possible.
But what does it even mean to be a divinity?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Is it about having supernatural powers, or is it something more subtle, like a shift in consciousness, a different way of seeing ourselves and the world?
Those are great questions, and I think they're perfect for the final part of our deep dive.
Okay.
We'll explore what this message could mean for our own lives and for the future of humanity as a whole.
All right.
So stick with us. We'll be right back.
All right, so we're back for the last part of our deep dive into La Segunda Venida.
It's been quite a journey.
Yeah, we've talked about some pretty mind-blowing stuff. You know, the soul merging with the human and this radical transformation of consciousness.
Right.
And even a glimpse into a future Earth where everyone's a divinity.
It's been a lot to take in.
It really has. And now we come to that big question.
So what?
Yeah, so what does all this mean for you listening in your everyday life?
Right. It's easy to get caught up in the big picture, the mystical ideas. But how do we actually, apply this stuff?
Yeah, how do we take these concepts and make them real in our own experience?
Well, the speaker does give us some hints. Okay. They talk about experiencing the world in a completely different way. More joy, less struggle, a deeper understanding of everything. They even say you'll receive what you need before you need it.
Yeah.
And life will become effortless and abundant.
Well, who wouldn't want that?
Right.
But it can't be that simple, can it?
I don't think so.
Like snapping your fingers and it all happens.
There's got to be more to it than that.
Right.
And I think what the speaker's pointing to goes way beyond just material abundance or ease. It's about a total shift in how we relate to life itself. You know? Remember they described this process as like a reunion with our true nature?
Yeah.
Like coming home after being away for a long time?
So it's not about gaining new powers or knowledge.
No.
It's about becoming more fully who we already are.
Exactly. And that's where things get really interesting.
How so?
Because if we're all essentially divine beings like this message suggests, how does that change how we interact with each other? How does it change how we see the world around us?
Yeah, it makes you rethink everything, doesn't it?
It really does.
Our relationships, our work, even the challenges we face.
It all starts to look different.
Because if there's really no separation, if we're all connected at this soul level, then even conflict and disagreement start to look different.
It's like the speaker's challenging us to see that divine spark in everyone, even in those who maybe we don't get along with so well.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
It is, but it speaks to the kind of radical change in perspective this message is calling for.
And it's not about becoming some kind of saint or guru either.
Right.
They're not saying we have to give up everything and live in a cave.
No, they talk about experiencing life fully with joy and happiness.
It's about embracing our humanity, not escaping it.
So it's not about denying our humanness, but about recognizing the divine within it.
Yeah, and maybe that's the key to this whole divinity thing.
What do you mean?
It's not about having supernatural powers or becoming superhuman.
Right.
Maybe it's about seeing the extraordinary in the ordinary,
the
sacred in the everyday.
Which brings us back to that final question the speaker asks.
Oh, yeah.
If you could ask them one question, what would it be?
You know, for me, it would be, what's the biggest thing holding us back from this integration, this awakening? Because they make it sound so easy.
Yeah.
Just surrender. Allow open yourself.
Right.
But we know it's not that simple in real life.
That's a great question, because what is holding us back?
Yeah, is it fear, doubt? Old habits that we can't seem to break?
Or maybe it's something even deeper.
Something we haven't even thought of.
That's what I love about these deep dives.
Me too.
They leave us with more questions than answers.
Right.
But they're good questions.
Yeah, the kind that make us think and challenge our assumptions and grow.
And that's what this whole message is about, isn't it?
Yeah.
An invitation to step into our full potential.
To awaken to the divine within us.
And to create a world that reflects that.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we'll leave you with one last thought.
Okay.
What if this message is true? What if this integration, this awakening, it's not just possible, but inevitable?
Wow.
What would that mean for you, for your life, for the world?
That's a powerful question to sit with.
It is.
And as you explore it, maybe you'll find yourself drawn deeper into this mystery, this wonder.
And all the possibilities.
Thanks for joining us on this journey.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, keep seeking your teeth.